Hello friends, it's been a very long time since I've made a video like this. As you can see behind me just here, this is my new project car. It's a 1987 Merkur XR40i, but it's also known as a Ford Sierra. Basically, I've always wanted one of these cars, not specifically the Merkur, a Ford Sierra. It's just so happened that this was the car that I came across because it was actually advertised originally as a Ford Sierra, despite it actually being a Merkur. Basically, the Merkur is just a rebadged version of the Ford Sierra, so it's a left-hand drive, and then it also is got only the 4-cylinder single overhead cam, so it's a pretty basic kind of engine. But also due to US crash regulations, it has a bigger front bumper and a bigger rear bumper, and there's also more chassis reinforcement. So really, this is actually one of the better cars to make into a race car. So the way that I went and got this car was that it was actually in a completely different state to me, in New South Wales, and I live in Queensland. So I had to actually go to New South Wales to get it. But the thing is, I originally purchased this car in January of 2020, and that was when I was going down to do the Bathurst 12 hour. I went and viewed the car, and then 2 or 3 days later I put a deposit down onto it and then got a loan and bought the car. But the thing is, I then had to wait 6 months due to COVID and all of the borders being closed to actually be able to go and get it. So that's what I did 2 weeks ago. I went and got it, and now the Queensland-New South Wales borders are actually being closed yet again. So luckily I actually went and got it. But I paid $8,000 for the car, which is fairly reasonable. But what we're going to do today is we're going to go through a bit of a walkthrough of the car before I do anything. The only things that we've done on it is we fixed up the brakes, which weren't really fixed at all, and then stuck a bit of an exhaust system on it just so we could bring it home. It was just basically a bodge job so we could get home kind of thing. But we're going to go through a walkthrough. I'm going to jack the car right up into the air because there's a bit of underbody work that needs to be done. And then, after that, I'll tell you what my plans are for this car. So as you can see, it's not actually a very big car. Currently, on it, lighting's not very good, but it's got the BBS rims on there. So they're really nice. I love those. But we'll open this up. The lock's a little bit stiff. But all in the interior is actually all the original interior. So it's the original seats. You can see it's coming apart there. These seats are very uncomfy and very, very hard. But let's sit in here. So obviously on here, it's got the Merkur badge instead of the Ford badge. It's just got the 5-speed manual. That's a really nice gearbox actually. It shifts very, very well. We've got massive, massive shop manual for this. So it's literally got everything I'll ever need for this car. Aftermarket stereo, all that kind of thing. I really love this dashboard. It's really cool. It looks really cool at night time as well. I just love the white and red. But the seats are also very close to the roof. The roof is like right above my head, so that'll be something I'll have to think about when I'm actually doing this car, when I actually build it. In the back here, all the original seats. The seats back here are actually in really good condition. I'll probably end up selling all of this because obviously I'm just going to strip it all out. But that's the side skirts there, and that's more body kit there. That's these pieces here. That's those pieces there. So the bonnet latch, it's actually a big red one up underneath here. Big satisfying clunk on it. But let's open this up. You can see it's a very small engine. There's the turbo there. It does have issues, this engine. I think it's misfiring a lot. But I probably won't end up using this engine anyway. So if you want one of these turbo engines, hit me up. It's also got the original intake and everything. It's a very weird system. It's like one of the circle air filters on there. You can see it's got a grill on the front, but the original Merkurs, children screaming, the original Merkurs, all that was just all bodywork, so someone's actually cut that out and put the grill on there, just probably for ventilation, because ventilation is so terrible on these cars. But just here, this is what we'll go through once the car is up on the jacks. You can see, if it focuses, big hole in there, and there's a big hole in behind this as well. But also there's bits of rust as well. So like there's rust in here. That's where the wing goes. The wing sits up on there and down there. And the fuel filler doesn't actually lock or anything. That's just how it is. It's a pretty neat little car. Well, not neat in the way that it actually is in good shape. It's not in very good shape. But it has a sunroof. So that's all that matters. But yeah, we'll get it up on jacks and we'll have a look underneath, because that's where all the interesting stuff is. This is what we're dealing with. So this has all been bogged up by the previous owner. Basically, this part has to join up onto this part. It's not actually structural, which is good. But you can see in there's like a big hole, and that goes all the way along. So they've built this sill kind of thing, and that's basically what I have to take apart and then redo. So that's where we're at the moment. It's the same on the other side as well. There is also a big hole up and in here, there, which has been cut out. So, but yes, it's up on stands now. All the wheels have been taken off. Yeah, let's go from there. But to conclude this video, I'll tell you what my approximate plans for this car are. Okay, so basically what I did today is I pulled out basically what was a bodge job by the previous owner, where the underside, it's a bit difficult to explain, like the underside of the car attaches to the sills that run along the edge. So it's the same on both sides. The previous owner just bodged it up, and now I'm going to have to do it properly with a proper long bit that it joins all the way through, because he had like 2 bits and he literally just used bog and screws. It just went through the floor kind of thing, and it was just really awful. I'll show you in the daylight properly, but it was dark when I was doing it. I just had like a little light, so it wasn't great to actually try and film it. But basically, what I'm going to be doing with this car is I'm going to be stripping out everything and making it into a race car. So I'll do brakes and suspension, upgrade that to much better quality than what it has, because at the moment it has drum brakes on the rear. For some reason it came with drum brakes in 1987. And then I'm looking at putting probably a 302 V8 into it, because I've been told, and just carby it, because I've been told that that's probably the cheapest way to run it, because the 4-cylinder turbocharged that I have in it, you have to spend a lot of money to get it to decent power, and then it's really expensive to run it as well, whereas if you run a V8, it's a lot cheaper to run it, make it more powerful, and then it's a lot cheaper to run as like maintaining and maintenance, because with this turbos, obviously you have a lot more stress on the engine. I don't know a whole load about it, but I've talked to a guy down in Currumbin who has built loads of these cars, and he definitely knows his stuff, and he said basically if he had his time again he'd put a V8 in it, and I'm like, well, he knows what he's talking about, so that's what I'm looking at for the moment. My camera literally just died as I was wrapping that up, but basically as I was saying, put a V8 in it and it's going to be cheaper. But that just about wraps us up for today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you very soon for when we rip out more parts of the car.